Welcome back, MGTOW men. Eve's weakness was uncertainty. Adam's weakness was Eve. So hypergamy is the word we use to simplify an already simple saying. The grass is always greener. In the Garden of Eden, apparently the garden wasn't green enough. And that's hypergamy. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And if you're new to my videos, each Sunday I take a look at a passage or a series of passages in the Bible and I connect it to MGTOW. For me, it has helped craft the red pill lens that I view the world through, and it's helped me understand myself and myself in relation to MGTOW. Regardless of how you view the Bible, a red pill stash it is. And hypergamy begins at the very beginning. We can't but get in 3 chapters before seeing hypergamy play out. And for those that are returning, you know the drill. In feet, F-E-A-T period, just like the rap titles that we see out there. Today is featuring Oslo MGTOW. No, he's not joining me presently. But he prompted me on a live stream that I did on Friday regarding the sermon for this Sunday, and he alluded to an email that he sent to me last month regarding Adam and Eve and what he titled Revisiting the Garden of Eden. So today I'm going to talk about the original creation myth within the Bible, but more specifically just chapter 3, and for today we're just going to focus on that, specifically verses 1 through 6. Read the passage first if you need a refresher, but most of you guys know the narrative. And the reason that it has already taken such a long time for me to get to this topic is because I don't really know how to condense all of this, the seminal moment within the Bible, into a talk and to complete my thoughts about men, women, female nature, the nature of men, and their relationship with God, and how this has impacted relationships between men and women today. So let's get going. Oslo's first take. As we know, within the Garden of Eden, there was a tree that contained the forbidden fruit. It was at the heart of the garden, although a serpent lured Eve in to consume the fruit, promising everything that she didn't have, whether or not she knew that she didn't have these things until this moment. So the account in Genesis reveals a side about female nature, and that first interjection was from me, which MGTOWs have often talked about, female hypergamy. But another side that is often overlooked is the portrayal of Eve as the original feminist. So this is demonstrated in Eve's acceptance of the devil's offer to pursue equal rights and higher power, even more than God himself, to influence what happens in that society, even with it being as small as it was at the time, obviously 2 human beings before Cain and Abel. And this offer caused her to rebel against both her husband's authority, Adam, and the other higher male power, God represented as a male, who had done nothing but provided good things up to this point. But good things are not enough to quell the hunger for more things, hypergamy. And the Genesis account says God had made the humans with free will to do whatever except eat from that tree. So what I see right here is this incompleteness, looking for more, filling the void, which is hypergamy in essence. Basically, the thought and the image that came to my mind was the Death Star. So the Empire in Star Wars builds this massive orb in outer space. It can completely eradicate entire planets. But it's got to have at least one chink in its armor, or else it's not realistic. So this incompleteness is an inherent element of narratives in modern times, biblical times, and in mythologies throughout other cultures. So off the top of my head, the first that I think of are, David and Goliath, obviously his temple, Achilles' heel, Medusa and her reflection, a werewolf and the silver bullet, vampire and light and garlic, whatever you want to say. So this is just a theological inference on my part, but the reason that I see this is that God made man incomplete in this regard to show him the need for a higher power. By wanting God as a higher power, and by being incomplete and recognizing that man is incomplete, he will strive higher. Men and women are always wanting. Men are wanting the ways of God. Women are wanting the ways of men. And when there is a disconnect somewhere along this link, disarray may occur. So the deceiver's goal was such. Disarray was the end goal. And forbidden fruit, and Eve was the tool to get there. But the deceiver does not want this humility. The snake is perceived now throughout culture as being a deceiver. That is almost a symbol of what the snake is viewed as. The snake actually is said to have legs, only losing those legs as punishment. So what is going on here alludes to the first sin in the 10 Commandments. It has to do with idolatry. Thou shalt not have any gods before me. The reason this exists, it's because it is ignoring the incompleteness and the flaw. If they were without flaw ultimately, they wouldn't even have been tempted by temptation per se. There was clearly a coding that would have been off. There was off. And in my interpretation, there would be no hypostatic union present. So Jesus comes along in the New Testament as a testament to carrying divine traits through that hypostatic union, which is a term in Christian theology to describe humanity and divinity, Jesus. And Adam and Eve were promised immortality initially, but this doesn't promise divinity. And relative to God, they would have been lacking. But this is important to remember in regards to how women eventually view men. Women expect men to be God. They expect men to fulfill them like the apple was supposed to, but that's because they don't know that they're wishing men were God. Thus, they just toss the apple out. They don't know. They see you as insufficient. They see you as lacking. It's because in today's culture, women have often discarded this spiritual connection. All right. And they put man on a pedestal expecting him to be God. Men, of course, cannot live up to that. So it's not like you're just competing out there with Tyrone. You have to be God in their eyes. And so they toss the apple out. They take a bite, and seeing in their eyes, their hypergamous eyes, that the apple is ridden with worms and is mushy and moldy, it does not make them complete as they thought it would. They toss men out into the trash, modern day divorces. So back to the email. The woman is the weaker vessel is what I labeled this section as. So in this case, the devil claimed the bug would instead enable them to have unlimited battery life and explore the dark web and discover all the game cheat codes that only God knew, which was the apple, essentially, is what Oslo's getting at. So the snake went to Eve. Why? We now know, looking at hypergamy. That would be the modern day MGTOW answer. And the modern day answer would also be that the serpent knew that his in would be through Eve as the weaker vessel. 1 Peter 3:7, she is the weaker vessel, not just physically, as it is often perceived in a surface level exegesis of the text, but she is the weaker vessel as I interpret it inwardly, all right? More influenced by evil, more easily led astray. So now, Hoodie, you must be some misogynist. No, because I'm not even using my own words to make this point. I'm using, first, my observations of society, and I'm corroborating it with what you see in the Mosaic writings. Deuteronomy wrote the Torah, authorship theory, Mosaic authorship theory in Genesis, Peter, and now Paul in 1 Timothy 2:11-15, which could be a whole other MGTOW sermon. His freaking gigantic red pill truth bomb, once again, from the main man Paul, as he says, let a woman learn quietly with all submissiveness. Okay, thus her actions follow learning. That's what would be assumed from that statement. She was not making her action following learning when confronted with the decision to eat or not eat the apple. It would be filled with uncertainty. Continuing on with that, I do not permit a woman to teach or exercise authority over a man. Rather, she is to remain quiet. Eve essentially lords over authority over Adam right away. Okay, and basically the thought that it is in my head right now is that the snake, the deceiver, was Tyrone. You're going to have to go with me on this one. He was going to her house when Adam was out working. It doesn't say where he was at this moment. He says, hey, come with me, and I'll give you what God can't, what your man can't, what Adam can't. Subsequently, if the deceiver is claiming to give what God can, because Adam is the example of God in the woman's eyes, Adam, using what I believe would be a modus ponens formed argument, then Adam would not have what she needs. Thus she goes with Tyrone, because why? Tyrone offers the illusion of what can be offered. It lasts as long as the bite lasts, and then it fades, and you're left with the sobering realization that you're naked in the garden. And let's continue with Paul's statement here. And Adam was not deceived, but the woman was, and became a transgressor. So Paul is noting here that the deception came through the woman. The woman was the vessel for that deception. And vessel can be taken in multiple ways, and I'm going to get into that. By the woman, man was deceived, as Satan is smart, and that's not to be downplayed. All right, that is mentioned many times. Satan goes around prowling around like a lion looking for someone to devour. So Satan in Hebrew essentially means something similar to oppose if we're going to connect it to English. And to oppose God, he goes through that weaker vessel, the woman. He knows that through Eve, who is acting upon hypergamy, looking for a bigger and better thing. The reason that the word vessel is so important here is because our understanding of the word in English. So vessel has two meanings, and I think both meanings are valid for our understanding of female nature in this instance. So a vessel can mean a ship or a boat of some sort, or it can also mean a hollow container, especially something to hold the liquid. I'm sure that during the Old Testament, they used vessels to contain water, oil, wine, especially in the Mesopotamian and Mediterranean region that the Bible operates in. In understanding that the word vessel, as Peter uses it, and as we connect it to modern day culture and what Satan did in tempting Eve, we understand that women are more easily filled. They are more easily directed. If a vessel is weak, it is not unabated by the influence of the wind and waves around it. It is not a vessel, a caravel, okay, of battleship level qualities. It can be easily tossed and turned. The mind more easily wanders. The heart more easily wanders. Thus, it can more easily be led astray by external influences. And when Adam was not around, wherever he was, the opportunity for those winds to come and drift that vessel, Eve, towards danger was greater. Secondly, a vessel is to be filled. Women are less likely to be independent-minded and independent thinkers. They're going to go with the group more. So, this brings up the assault on a woman's mind, whack-a-mole. And these are still my thoughts. High Plains Drifter, for a few dollars more, Aragorn, Strider, and Lord of the Rings. There is a reason this space cowboy, rogue-minded archetype is not the female. This is because she is more easily going to be filled by an external influence than a man is. And there is a reason for this. She will follow social trends for personal protection, but she will also follow spiritual influences around her. You see mediums, fortune tellers, tarot card readers, whatever it may be. They are more frequently women. This is shown right here, I believe. And this is an example for men that when you're in a relationship with a woman, you're not just dealing with one enemy, you're dealing with a hydra. It's hypergamy, the Tyrone, so to speak, the influence of another power figure, and even spiritual influence. This can include ideological influence, and part of the reason that you see a movement like feminism arise. When women strip themselves of an identity that is grasped within a relationship with the man and recognize that as less feminine, it's being with the man, and destructive to their cause, there's a gap there. They're going to reach for something. They're going to latch onto some other entity. Those playing devil's advocate may contend, well, isn't MGTOW just a manifestation of that amongst men? I get that comment all the time. The thing is, MGTOW is a giant forum in my opinion. It's a forum for men replacing the lost space that we once had in those coffee shops, out in the field working, or even in the courtyard where the Socratic method was established. Thus, it's not this collective that is meant to serve as an entity to follow, which the man once was in society. It's not even a thing. It's the crystallization of an understanding of what is needed to allow men to survive amidst the technological, vocational, economic, and social changes that have ridden predominantly Western cultures. So Adam, he was playing whack-a-mole from the minute the rib left his body. So guess what? You are too. There's no reason that it would be any different for you. Every day she is offered something greater. Every day the price of a greater life is going to be thrown to the side. A rollback Walmart discount is going to be placed in front of her because she is now the prized possession in our gynocentric society. You can't control the number of apples that are put before her and that she may put before you. Now back to our feature artist, Oslo MGTOW, on the track. But in any case, the devil saw the female would think and act hypergamously and would most likely be the first to bite, if offered better circumstances than her current one. So I'm not making this up. Real estate advertisers know that women are the ones whose hypergamy can be used to cause their husbands to risk taking a mortgage for a better house in a better neighborhood than the one that they're currently living in. And when the time comes, the women are the ones who also push the husband to go for an even better home in an even better neighborhood. This has been their nature for millennia. And so back to the Garden of Eden, the devil was like, hey lady, don't you want to be free to do whatever you like and to make your own choices without first asking a man or seeking permission from a higher power? Here is your opportunity to have equal rights, to have a say, to be able to vote, and not let a man or God set rules for you. Here, eat from the tree of knowledge of good and bad, and your eyes will be open, and your own you'll be able to tell the difference between right and wrong. Become that strong, independent woman. So here, eat this. And so Adam's weakness was Eve ultimately. And the woman accepted the serpent's offer of feminism. So here, I'm going to interject once again and finish this one up. So Eve's weakness was the pull of hypergamy, or uncertainty about what the future would bring. So that's essentially, if you look at hypergamy, the driving force behind hypergamy. It's behind feminism as well, but it's a response to the thought that I don't have what I need in the current moment. You want more. The only reason you want more is because you think you don't have enough for the long run or for the current moment. So it plays off this grass is always greener paradigm. That's the biggest weakness, and Satan knew that. But even more importantly is that Satan knew that Eve was Adam's weakness. As though the woman, the man, is brought to the knees, kingdoms fall, Adam is rebuked and disciplined before God for failing. So he is the one that takes the blow, serving as a precursor for the rest of the Bible and serving as an experience many of us men have been through. Now we are here as MGTOW hoping to stop that line. So Oslo MGTOW spit far more than a couple 16. So guess what? You'll have to wait for part 2 next week of a 3-part series on hypergamy, feminism, and the creation of much of what we talk about and see in MGTOW, all through revisiting the Garden of Eden. I hope you enjoyed part 1. Oslo, I took a couple of your parts out just for time's sake. And also, as always, at the end of each article, I've been announcing I want to put together a book, a collection of stories from MGTOW men, sharing how they came to MGTOW and what MGTOW has done to benefit them. To take part in that, let me know at sunrisehoodie@gmail.com or on Twitter at sunrisehoodie. Thank you for listening to part 1, touching on hypergamy, Adam's weakness, part 1 of 3, and revisiting the Garden of Eden from a MGTOW lens. Hoodies up, hoodies out.